All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third in a series of three coaching webinars for this winter. We are bridging the gap, supporting track and field athletes during breaks from university. And with me today are two fantastic development coaches who have a lot of experience working with athletes to get them on their way to university and helping them on their way, throughout university in the summer when they come back, which is what we're going to talk about today. So, um, I am John Franco, I'm the manager of coaching education at Athletics Canada. Cal Smith, our coaching coordinator, is in the background as usual. And so, just a couple things before we start here. Um, it's a webinar, everybody's muted. If you have questions, please put them in the question box, the Q&A box, and from there we'll get them and put them into our question list. We'll do our best to get to all the questions. Vous pouvez aussi demander des questions en français et je vais traduire. So as usual, if you want to ask questions in French, we can translate that, no problem. The webinar is going to be recorded and posted in the coming days on the AC YouTube channel. And coaches who've entered their NCCP number and are NCCP certified will receive one PD point for their participation in the webinar today. All right, so we can take the graphic down and I'll introduce our coaches. So we have Ingrid Sandy here, who is head coach of Kilomaîtres de LaSalle track and field club. She's been the head coach since 2018 and before that was the coach of the club for about 12 years. Her journey includes um, through her guidance, sorry, I'm reading here. Athletes have achieved remarkable success at provincial and national levels. And her values include emphasizing education, and so she's aided numerous athletes to secure scholarships to U.S. universities. Um, in her time as the coach there, her commitment to coaching excellence is underscored by her certification in club coach sprint hurdles, a NACAC continuing education program, performance coach certification, part of the Athletics Canada mentorship program, and a sports education certificate in sports medicine. So that's Ingrid, and our other panelist, Kurt Downs. We call him the friend of the show. He's often one of our go-to panelists because he is everything. So he's an international athletics leader, educator, high performance coach. Has more than 20 years of experience working across university systems with national sport organizations and in elite performance environment. His work focuses on building evidence-informed athlete development pathways that integrate performance excellence education and athlete well-being. He's the president and head coach of Border City Athletics Club in Windsor, Ontario, where he leads long-term athlete development programming, supporting more than 150 athletes annually. And under his leadership, over 50 athletes have successfully transitioned to NCAA and U Sports institutions, earning scholarships and continuing on into high performance. At the international level, Kurt has represented Canada as a national team coach at the Olympics, World Athletics Championships, Pan Am Games, NACAC Championships. And as if that wasn't enough, Kurt is also a PhD candidate in kinesiology at the University of Windsor. His research examines sex-based physiological differences in athlete development, long-term participation trends, and equity in sport. So that's who we have here today. Welcome to both of you. We're super excited and lucky to have you both here to talk about this. Um, Very kind of interesting topics. We've actually done a couple of these NCAA and U Sports kind of university themed webinars talking about how coaches can help get athletes there and this sort of thing. And so now we're kind of like in the mode of, okay, the athletes are down there, but then they're going to come back and work with their club coach, which is you. And how does that work? Because I think sometimes our coaches are a bit unsure, like if it's the first time, like how, what to expect and that kind of thing. So, um, I guess the first question, and maybe we'll start with Ingrid and Kurt can answer as well. Um, what's the sort of is there a common and we'll start in the NCAA and we'll talk about U Sports as well, but what's the common NCAA athlete summer experience? Like after their championship, are they kind of shutting it down? Do they go for national teams? Are they coming back home, staying down? What kind of different experiences have you seen, Ingrid?
Um, when the athletes are coming back, for one thing, especially when it's their first year, they are very, very tired because they're not accustomed to the volume of training and the amount of competitions compared to before they got into there. But then coming back home, they would have to get ready for one nationals and any pertaining national teams that we have on their horizon. And so it's like a balancing act when they're coming back to balance the tiredness and also continue to get them ready to continue competing.
Hmm. Makes sense. Kurt, what do you think about that?
I very much agree with what Ingrid's saying. Um, a tendency is that the volume, just the density of what the athletes are doing is, so much greater, and the intensity that they're doing it with is often much greater than they're used to in their club programs or their high school programs. Prior to leaving for an NCAA or Canadian collegiate type of program, so that when they do finish their season, whether it be in May at conference or April or May at their conference, or if they do happen to make it to the first round of an NCAA situation, and or even if they do happen to make it further to that, to an NCAA championship, they are exhausted. And a lot of times they'll come back and they don't often want to run during the summer season. So what you often see is kids come back and maybe they take a long break, or they have a tendency to maybe just do general training when they are back in home.
Makes sense. So, I mean, I guess um, the flip side of that is when you're working with athletes that, if they're staying in the US for the summer, are you still in touch with them or even during the season? Like how are you communicating with them? And to sort of plan for, potential sort of future relationship. Is there still like communication there if they're staying stateside or staying, out in BC or at a different place in Canada?
So the athletes that I have that go to the States, I do keep a close contact with them. I
Mhm.
touch in base with them at least 2, 3 times a month to ensure that everything is going okay, they're fine, just to keep the lines of communication open with myself and them, but not to the point where I'm going to be interfering with their getting into a relationship with the new coach that they have.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, we help mold them and put them together in order to get them there. And for myself, I believe that I don't just leave them and say bye bye. I continue I continue the coaching, but not on the technical aspect on the track, but I will do the mental aspect of getting them mentally ready for the volume, the intensity, the different environments, so that they could prosper.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, for instance, in the last 2 days, I've had calls from two of the athletes that are away. I do my best to keep in touch with them. Maybe if it's a couple times a month, great. I try to rotate them so that, I might get one this week, I'll get, one next week, that sort of thing. However, I do very much the similar things to Ingrid. I try not to tamper with what the coach is doing. I don't know. My apologies here as I'm at school. Um, I what's our
It's all good. It's all good.
sorry about that, life of a teacher.
Yeah.
What I try to do is I try very much to not be someone that is tampering again with what the coach is doing. I don't know if they have a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year plan similar to myself I would have, or possibly Ingrid would have with her athletes here and how we develop them. So when you hear or you see something that the coaches are doing, my initial response is, okay, have you spoken to the coach? Are you talking to them? Do you know if it's a part of a bigger plan? Have you discussed that with them at all? And that's usually the first sort of go-to that I would have with the athletes. And that's essentially what I did in the last 2 days with these two athletes. One wants to he's wants right away to say, oh, I'm transferring. I said, okay, well, you've run well, you're pretty healthy, you've run well. How about we think about this and have the discussion with your coach and find out what the ultimate plan is for you? Is it to run the hurdles? Is it to move to the 8? Is it like what's the plan? Have that discussion with the coach and try to sort out what that plan is first and foremost.
So something just popped in my head here. Would you ever like contact the university coach and be like, "Hey, what's the plan?"
Yes,
Yeah. And have you so
especially at the beginning.
yeah. How does that go usually?
Um, well, before I get the athletes into the university, I do talk to the coaches, the coach that
Hmm.
is going to be involved with the athlete, and I try to form some kind of communication and understanding with them. And
Hmm.
so far, I've been really good with getting a rapport with the coaches that they would consider my input. Okay. But I also tell them I'm not stepping on their toes. I'm just trying to transition the athlete in so that they're comfortable and they will migrate to them.
Hmm. Makes sense.
So for me,
Yeah.
again, I would say something along the same lines. I would say I definitely have had conversations with coaches. Usually it's sort of prior to heading off something that would be major. For instance, if there was a stress fracture looming, or if there was an injury, a prior injury, it would be a conversation. Hey, has such and such had a prior injury previously? Or it may be along the lines of when the athlete comes home, let me know what your plan is for the athlete.
Mm.
Do you want to send me the workouts? Because I've had coaches send me strict, weekly types of workouts, and we'll try to our best to accommodate them. I've also
Mm.
had coaches say, you know what to do. These are the things that we've seen. Go ahead and do whatever you like, whatever you
Mm.
want, you think is best under, these parameters. So I
Mm.
would say, yes, try to have the conversation. But at the same time, some coaches, they lock their seasons off themselves in, June, and they're off. They don't coach through the summer,
Yeah.
and some do. I think,
Mm.
like Ingrid said, those are the discussions you have, maybe prior to that athlete going there,
Mm.
and maybe while the athlete is there.
Mm.
But one key thing I think that maybe Ingrid does, but she might not have mentioned is I try to make sure that when I do have that discussion with the coaches, I try to have them lead the discussion as compared to me trying to seem as if I'm imposing on them. I have found in dealing with a lot of the coaches, a lot of them are very proud. Some are
Oh yeah.
very much chest pounding types of individuals, both males and females. And they don't necessarily want you as the high school or the club coach to come in and try to dictate what their athlete is doing. So
Mm.
you almost have to be a mediator
Mm.
or intermediary in those situations.
Mm. Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I just think because as a university coach, I remember one time talking to a high school athlete who was going to come to the school, and I said, can you put me in touch with your coach? And she said yes. And I talked to the coach, and the coach said, "Oh, wow, I've never had in my life a university coach reach out to me." I thought
Yeah.
that was surprising because as a university coach, I kind of think I would like to, get to know the coach previous coaching situation. So, yeah, it's good to hear that those relationships are happening and that there's communication. Um, but then, okay, so what are some common sources of conflict though between sort of university and home club coach? Like, we talked, both of you spoke very diplomatically a little bit about, and kind of expressing how you sort of like let them lead and this sort of thing. So what are some of the, things that could conflict?
Um, One of the conflicts is returning back to school in August,
Mm.
especially if they have a long season. They finish nationals at the end of July, or they go to a Canadian team that makes them compete in August.
Mm.
The coaches and the university coaches want them to start back. We need to start training. We start da da da. But the athletes also need rest. So
Mm.
that is the pushback that as the club coach having to try to tell the university coach, well, but he needs more time to rest. while everyone else that's coming in from summer vacation has had X amount of time off. They've been having a jolly good summer. They've still been competing. And that's one of my major hitbacks, is going back because of our calendar.
I definitely say the calendar when we go back is absolutely one of them. I'd also include other times throughout the year. For instance, American Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving, Christmas break as well is another potential point of contention. And I'd say further to that is also when athletes are allowed to leave. Sorry, not leave, but to determine whether or not they are going to like, for instance, compete. So, sorry, not when they're going to compete, what they're going to compete in. So, I've often coached athletes that were in the 60 and the 60, 100, 200 range. What tends to happen is coaches will stretch them out because they don't have relays, and they'll say, well, can they then run the 4x1 and the 4x4? Right. And it's like, okay, so now we're looking for points. So that means we're going to run, two individuals plus two relays, every single weekend. That becomes, an onerous task for some athletes that might, they're not as robust as the other athletes. And then same thing goes with the 100 hurdlers, 400 hurdlers, et cetera, on the way up. Happens that way as well, because then that means they're now live for distance medleys and sprint medleys, in addition to 4x1s, 4x4s, and their host of individual events or combined eventers. So that's also been an issue whereby athletes, because of the range or the events that they have, they may just be stat stuffers. And there might not necessarily be a development plan. It might be, where can this athlete fit that can score points exclusively for us? And further to that, oftentimes there's some situations, and this is a third thing I'll say about it, is that, there might not be a developmental plan for that athlete. It might just be, where does that athlete fit into our team at this particular point in time in order to, get us what we need at conference or regionals, et cetera. And again, this is not all coaches and situations at universities, et cetera, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say that some of the situations are that way. And again, it could be the same in Canadian universities as well, but it definitely is some of those situations with the U.S. schools.
And so what do you do in that kind of case? Like, if you're communicating with the athletes, so and the athlete's like, coach, he wants me to run this relay and that relay and this, and like I really want to PB in my 60, but like I got to do these other things. Well, how do you balance that sort of the relationship you have with that coach, and not kind of stepping on their toes, but helping support the athlete?
One of the things I have to tell, what I try to do is, first, because the athlete is feeling so conflicted, I try to tell them, you need to go and express this to the coach, okay?
Yeah.
Because it can't come from me, and then afterwards they never heard it from the athlete. So I will let them know, you need to explain and express your concerns. Then, I will go through scenarios, try to have a talk with, pointers to say and stuff like that. But bottom line, it has to come, the coach has to understand the athlete in order to be able to change it. You do have some coaches that are like, no, we're all for the points. And so they're going to run them in the 1, the 2, the 4x1 and the 4x4. And then your athlete is dead. Okay. In those instances, then, one time is fine. If it becomes consistent and the athlete is still expressing his view, then, unfortunately, we might give a call and just ask, can you let us know what your plan is? Because the season is going to be going on, and and explain to them what the long-term aspect of it is, and, see if you could actually get some headway with the coach in order to try to reduce these volumes.
Yeah, I think that obviously, yeah, that's a great point. I think there's also other things that we can do to help support those points that Ingrid made as well. In Canada, we're very lucky. We have, a fantastic liaison in Carmen, and that's something that we could use as well. Remember, it doesn't always have to be you. If you have a network of coaches where you can call and talk to them, that's
Mhm.
something that you can do. And if you don't happen to have them, then, maybe that's where you could reach out to Carmen and say, hey, listen, this is something that I'm seeing. Do you have
Mhm.
experience in it? Can you help me navigate these waters? Can you help me to, find the right words or terms to deal with this coach or these coaches, in letting them know, hey, this is a very talented kid, or this
Mhm.
could be a very talented kid if the kid develops. We would want them back home, to support our relay program or to support, teams in the summer, or even just in saying that, hey, can you help clarify, the plan for this young athlete? Because, for instance, this young athlete we want to see on teams in a year or two. We want this
Mhm.
athlete in the pool, and that's only going to make your school look better if you
Mhm.
have, young Kyle Smith here preparing to be involved in these national teams. So I think it's also being able to have some of those connections, or even have those resources, or know that those resources are there and around,
Mhm.
that you could tap into.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, Carmen James is the Athletics Canada's NCAA APA. So yeah, her mandate is to support the athletes and coaches in CAP that are in the States and in university. So yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, just in generally, having a network of coaches, like knowing like, if there's another coach who sent someone to that school, like saying, hey, like what do you know about this program and what's a good way to kind of get through to this particular coach. Anything else there, Ingrid, or are you good on that
No,
question? Yeah,
no,
good.
Kurt covered. Kurt covered it well.
Nice. Okay. Um, so I was thinking about something you said before, the athletes that getting used to kind of a greater load intensity, all that sort of thing. So then when they come back, how do you kind of fit them in with the existing group that you have that might be, some of their friends and peers, but still in high school, or friends that are at different schools on different programs? Like, how do you try to kind of make a cohesive summer group, or is it really like, okay, everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and how does that work?
Um, well, as when they come back, they're accustomed to training with a group of individual with their new friends that they have in the university that they're in. So when they come back, what I do is I try to pair them up with athletes that are equal level with them. So at least they have like a network. They have someone to train with instead of just being training themselves. The program I would get from the if the coach is sending the program, then I'll probably tweak it to the level of so they the athletes at home and the athlete from the university could both finish the program in a good sense. Or if I'm writing the program, then I will try to tweak it to what they're accustomed to in the US. But then our athletes here will be getting introduction into new things. For me, it's a learning process for the athletes home. They get to see new things. They get to try something different, right? And it also helpful for the athlete that's coming home because at least they won't be training by themselves. They'll have their teammates in order to be with them, and they would it makes it more enjoyable for them.
Nice.
Yeah. I think with respect to like my group here, one of the things we try to do is I try to set a separate time for the collegiate group. The collegiate group is cohesive. It would be the Canadian university kids who are home, although they would probably be back with me a little bit earlier as the collegiate season in the Canadian system finishes a little bit earlier. But I would put all of them together. And again, similar to what Ingrid said, kind of mailbox them, put them together with obviously kids who they would have been training with prior to. So kids, if they're the short sprinters, put the short sprinters together, the long sprinters, hurdlers, jumpers, et cetera, together, mid distance, et cetera. And then what I would do is obviously contact a coach and just say, hey, like, what's the summer plan? Do you want them to race or not to race? And I may get, hey, I have a kid that's at George Mason right now, had a solid rookie year. We're going to shut her down this year. Okay, shut her down. What do you want? She's going to take 4 weeks off, and then we're going to, start to gradually train her. She's going to come home and train for 4 weeks and then take, the next few weeks off. Sure. And she would be on a different plan, but she would be out there training with that group at the same time. So at least she's not by herself. Um, and I would try to work it in those capacities. Keeping in mind, like for instance, if there's a kid that comes home and the coach says to me, for instance, there's a kid at Life University that we work with in Atlanta. He came home. He came home a little bit earlier because their academic schedule is different. He was with us for a little while, and it was essentially we went back to essentially an SPP, a specific prep phase for him because he was home for so long. And that's essentially what we did with him, and his coach was okay with it. So, I think communication is probably the biggest key with the coach, and then also understanding how to mailbox those athletes, where to put them and group them.
You both mentioned, kind of a bit of a challenge sometimes at the end of the summer in August, that kind of thing. What are some things that you do to kind of prepare these athletes to return? And like I think generally you're both sort of speed power coaches. I know Kurt, you've got some middle distance stuff, so they might be doing some cross country. So say like assuming they're not doing cross country, what are you doing to prepare them? Because it's not like a hard start in September. You would think there's no competitions are not for a while, so you think they could ease it in. But like what are the things they're doing kind of in the weeks before they're going back? Are they actually training hard, or are they like that's what they're full off and then they only start when they go? Like how's that work?
For myself, once they finish the last set of competitions, I usually put them off going into university because the
Mm,
universities that I've had, been in contact with, they like to start their program in September.
mhm,
And so therefore them finishing in May, June, then coming here competing, and then going starting again with preparation phase in September, the athlete has had like no absolute time to no
mm,
downtime.
mm,
So I would put them on rest
mhm,
going up to the university. They would still have like they go to the gym, do a light workout, but to say do major track work, I would be like, no, that's just my philosophy with that.
mm,
Yeah.
Again, I would say it depends on the again on the athlete, the grouping, what school they're going to. What I've found is the university schedules in the U.S. vary so much. There are some universities that want their kids back the 1st of August. There are others, like for instance, Life University and UCLA, that their kids, I don't know if they're a quadmester, I don't know what type of the academic schedule they're on, but they don't want the kids back till like the middle of September.
mm,
So, it's a very, it varies so much. I would say it's very individualistic. And it it rests on the school, the coach, when they want them back. For instance, we sent two kids away this year down into the Carolinas, and they were done at U20s. They had 3 weeks off essentially, and they were set to head off to school. But they didn't actually start school for another, 2 weeks, and then
mm,
their actual training didn't start for another week after that. So what we just said is like 6 weeks almost is a very long time to be completely off. So how about you take the first three off, okay? Do nothing, It's your freshman year. It's going to be a lot. And then the next 2 to 3, do some, gradual reintroduction, large warm-ups and things like that, mobility and things like that as you head once you return to school. So I would say it varies. It depends uh, on a
Yeah.
number of different things.
Makes sense. Just had a little comment from Carmen James herself, who's I was here watching, and she just wanted to point out, so because this year it's a bit different. Our national championships are June 17th to 21st.
Hmm.
NCAA D1 championships are June 10 to 13.
Yep.
So it's a bit tight. So she said that an NCAA coach actually reached out to her wanting to know about Commonwealth game selection and just so that he can prepare the Canadian athlete in his
Yep.
program was actually a non-cap athlete as well to make the team. So she thought that was impressive, and it's only February, and the coach is thinking about this. So a good example of a coach who's thinking about the Canadian system and trying to help the athletes through. So that's kind of it's kind of nice to hear. It's good.
Yeah,
Um,
again, I think that that's fantastic because it shows the coach is keen. One, two, that he or she probably understands that the success of this athlete bodes well for his or her program, knowing that if this athlete makes a major international games or team, that the posting of it, all of the stuff that comes along with it are super positive for recruiting and retention of athletes and that sort of stuff in this wild world of portals and all of these other types of things. So
yeah,
yeah, I would say that's a very forward-thinking coach, and that's a great coach to work with. Absolutely.
yeah, that's
Thanks, Carl.
nice. Yeah. So good thoughts about the end of school. It's always interesting, like the kind of to hear schools have so many different schedules, and so you kind of gotta everybody's gotta have their own plan, which is it's kind of coaching anyway. But yeah, so I guess we talked about this a bit, but just maybe more generally, or if you can think of maybe an example where something like this happened, like how do you navigate situations where you see something concerning in the athlete's training, like, kind of overtraining or like an injury risk or something like that. Like, is there a way that you would intervene and try to, quote unquote, save the athlete?
Um, uh, yeah, saving the athlete, the quote unquote. I've had that situation where one of my athletes had a hamstring injury,
Yeah.
and the coach decided that putting her in the long sprint program was a way to heal the hamstring injury. Then trying to, yeah, so it's a matter, had to navigate them to go to the athletic trainer, and that didn't help either. The athletic trainer did not put on a protocol to help strengthen the hamstring. So then in turn, I had to go get an athletic trainer, call the athlete, by phone, diagnose, write a program, then send it to the athlete, and then have the athlete do that program in the athletic training room while the practice was going on. And then in essence, we actually got her hamstring to be a lot stronger. Then she was able to continue to compete for the university, but it was a matter of, no matter what we told this coach, he just believed that running it out was going to help the injury. So I mean, you have extreme cases like that, and you have other extreme cases where, you could actually you could get the athlete to have the coach help them through their injury, get them the help that they need, and get massage therapy if they need that, athletic training, physiotherapy. But you see both extremes.
I would say maybe even preemptively, some of those are some of the questions that you ask you prepare your athletes to ask when they are going away. What is the therapy situation like? Very often, a lot of schools, Canadian and US, have they have athletic trainers, and oftentimes they're student trainers. But those are questions you ask: do they have acupuncture? Do they have a chiropractor or a massage therapist that are able to be involved with the team, or does the university not allow those sorts of relationships? Can they see someone off campus or not? Um, if something is progressing, or be referred by one of the team doctors or doctors in the medical health system in the university or that are around the university. Those are important questions. We've had kids on both sides of the spectrum where they had to go off campus, but it was allowed. We've had kids where it wasn't allowed at all, and they had only to use the people that were under the university's insurance. And then we've had coaches that have been really creative and were able to use funding, to bring in, a massage therapist that they paid on staff, once a week or twice a week, to work with athletes, and the athletes would have to be scheduled in, et cetera. So we've seen, this sort of myriad of different, sort of training interventions for athletes. But I would say from a holistic standpoint, um, I think it still comes down to the communication of the actual student athlete, and developing some of those skills to be able to have those conversations with the coaches, and effectively communicate what they're feeling and what's going on. I would say the second layer to that would be, having them come back and have discussions with Ingrid, myself, or other trusted coaches that they know. I'd say the escalation of that would be, being able to contact people. Again, this is if they're CAP athletes and or potential national team or OPSI types of Ontario high performance, sorts of types of athletes, Quest for Gold, et cetera. If they are those kinds of athletes, then I would say, there's Angela in Ontario, there's Carmen with AC, Glenroy and Molly. I know I've had conversations with coaches, et cetera, at different points in time, and also your club coach, the Ingrids and myself, to sort of help broker those conversations for you. And obviously, hopefully a polite and appropriate way that doesn't, put the athlete in any more harm, than would be if they didn't. But what I would say there's different levels or layers of how to approach and go about dealing with these types of situations.
Hmm. Um, but just because they're fun, can you share maybe another kind of challenging situation that you've dealt with and what you learned from it? Because this is how we learn when things don't go according to perfect plan.
Yeah.
Mm.
Ingrid, yourself, or
Yeah, I just mentioned one.
yeah, yeah.
um, well, the one I just mentioned was the situation where I'm trying to get the hamstring injury under control. There are other instances where our athlete needed to be put back in a, or one of my throwing athlete needed to be put back in a boot.
Hmm.
And we're trying to get the medical staff there to
Hmm.
assess to put her back. Then we had to make the call from here to put her back into a boot
Hmm.
in the middle of competition, um, and try to navigate with the medical staff there and the medical staff here to come to a consensus as to the best way to get this athlete to heal
Hmm.
and still train at the same time.
Hmm.
So, but in that, I've learned that the two medical systems are two different systems, really extreme. But um, once you get a good get a good team together on both sides, then and everyone's looking out for the best interest of the athlete, then the athlete gets to go far, and the athlete gets taken care of. So,
Yeah.
I would say for me, we've had a number of situations, with a number of athletes that have been challenging. We've had to um, fly athletes to other states, um, to be seen at different points in time. We've also had to fly athletes home to get imaging done here in
Mm.
order to show that something was wrong. Um, you know, uh, Multiple times with same athlete or different athletes as well. Sometimes I've had to have discussions with the coach and the medical. Like this I've spoken to and been a liaison between the coach, the surgeon, and the athlete and the athlete's parents. I've been fortunate also to be able to call on, some very knowledgeable people to help manage and deal with the situation. I think one time we had to deal with what was stress fracture turned into a navicular fracture, which then had to have a bone graft done. And then we were working with actually it was Dan Paff that had helped me out, and we had gone and got a exogen bone stimulator, and like we had gone through all these different layers to try to help navigate this injury and trying to heal it. Ultimately it helped and it worked, but you know, what I would say to coaches that would be on the call would or even medical people on the call would be try to develop your network prior to and try to consult with as many knowledgeable people as you can to help help you along the way. Reach out to the Ingrids, the Carmens, all of these different individuals to find out what they have done in the past and who they can contact you with. Maybe there is, people that are on that staff, or even doctors that are in that city or at that university, um, to help you manage some of those situations. Because if you're going in blind, it's a
Mhm.
task. It'll be a task in managing these, sort of dramatic types of situations.
Yeah,
Mhm.
can be challenging. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, Ingrid, you have the advantage of at least working in the medical system here, so you kind of, at least you have that half somewhat
Oh
covered.
yeah, oh yeah. I walk around and get what I want.
Um, yeah, it's tough. So Kurt mentioned actually something there. They mentioned the parents. What role are parents playing, once the kids are off at university? How involved are they or not? I mean, Kurt's laughing, so maybe you can go first. As a parent
I
yourself, to explain the
would,
best practice behaviors for when your kids are off at school.
yeah, I would say it's interesting. Like I said, today I had two phone calls today, two sets of text messages, and two I wouldn't say phone calls, voice sets of voice notes today.
Mm,
One was images of the one athlete on the table getting like literally massage, and this is the parent sending it, and also acupuncture saying like, what is this? What treatment is this? And I'm then now explaining to her what the
mm,
treatment is that her daughter is getting at the university.
mm,
Second one was athlete who had who had been sick, and we suspect maybe dealing with possibly some iron. He had been
mm,
running really well, and sort of how do we navigate what's going on here with this athlete. So I'm like, okay, this is the types of blood work that he needs to get. This is the protocol from Dr. Trent, Dr. Stellingworth. These are the things that you should ask in these realms,
mm,
as far as blood work, etc. And I'm like,
mm,
if go back to them and ask if you can have these types of, tests done for him, or for him to go and sort of advocate for himself and ask for that sort of stuff. So I would say there are levels of parents. Some are in very informed and very in tune. Some are not. And some are just very, very overtly hands-on and want to be involved in every aspect, even though their child is not necessarily in the city anymore and they're gone.
mm,
So I'd say there's varying levels of parent involvement, is what I would say.
mhm. Ingrid, what's your experience with the parents?
As Kurt mentioned, this, yeah, different levels of of parents. You have one extreme to the other extreme. You got the parents that when they're athletes, when their kids are successful, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's great," and then when they get injured, it becomes your fault. But he's in the States though, but it's your fault. So, I mean, navigating the parents, you have to let them know the expectations, give them like an overview of how life will change for them, as to how um, them as an athlete development will change as well. We do find that athletes coming, well, from my view, when athletes coming from here, their first year is never their successful year because they're managing the different aspect. Yes, the weight room is closer, the track is closer, everything is closer, but the volume has all gone up, right? And then then the parents will come back and it's like, oh, but he did this number here, but he's not doing it there, and it's like, yes, but he's adapting. But then after you see in the second year, they start to flourish because their body starts to get adapted. So yeah, for me, it's just about knowing the parent that you have and just informing them to the best of their ability so you could actually diminish some of the anxieties that they'll be having.
All right. I don't know. Timmy says not paid for advertising spot on these webinars, but maybe we should
Oh, I'm sorry.
so I guess on this like I think that's good. We should ask them. Yeah, no, it's good. Parents, yeah, I think it as a sport parent, especially a sport parent who's involved in sports, you kind of know, but at the same time, like, does that mean that you're more or less involved? Like, I feel like I should be less involved, but then I'm like, but I could help, but maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I'm not helping, like it's it's a tough balance being a parent. Okay, so just to kind of close off, a couple questions, just more about like almost like kind of the legacy of all these relationships. Like, what are some things clubs can do to maintain strong relationships with the athletes that are, kind of going away and maybe, because a lot of time people will go away and then they like where they've gone to school and they stay there and they're not really in your club anymore. What are some things you do to kind of like maintain relationship and just to kind of keep that link even if they're not like technically training with you anymore? Have you done that sort of thing? I assume you have.
Yes, yeah. Um, the relationships I have with my athletes, especially the ones that are in the States, um, I'm a lot more hands on with them academically rather than athletically. And so, based on that relationship, going through the full 4 years of the university, ensuring that, they get their graduation paperwork in so they can actually graduate. Um, they tend to keep me in the loop. They tend to call with their accomplishes. Oh, I got this internship. Oh, I
Mhm.
just got this. And this is just based on the relationship that you've built with them throughout
Mhm.
the years. Yes, they are in the university for 3, 4 years, but that relationship that you build with them during that time will help flow over even if they don't come back.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I think the development of those relationships is like paramount, not just for the athlete, but also for the up and coming athletes in your groups as well, because they're going to want to see that athletes have been successful, whether it's on the track or off the track. They want to hear those sorts of stories of athletes sort of progressing and going on because it's what they aspire to do as well. Similarly, their parents and other groups, I was fortunate this week. I got a great message from a former athlete. Her track career didn't quite, she ran 53.80 as a grade 11 in the 400 hurdles and won offset. And then COVID hit, and she went away to university. It got hurt. It didn't quite work out at the first university. She graduated, went to a second university, got her master's degree a year ago or just finishing it now. And then I got a call saying she got into the PhD program at this second university. So she'll end up with 3 degrees, and she's in a PhD program, and she's a very hardworking kid. And and her response to me was, "Look at life," and I was like, heck yeah, kid. Like, that's fantastic. Track and field might not have worked out in the capacity that you wanted it to, but you use both of those opportunities to still do something incredibly positive. And first thing I did at practice the next day was make sure I let those athletes know that, hey, here's this kid, it might not have worked out that way on the track, but look, she's getting her third degree from a major university in the US, and she's doing incredibly well. So that relationship, is sort of continued on in that capacity, and she's also come home and coached for us in the summer as well. So that's I think sort of a testament to those relationships sort of expanding over time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's good to stay in touch, whatever level is appropriate, I guess, depending on the all the different things we talked about. So just to kind of close, maybe if you can each give, maybe two or three sort of best practices for home club coaches supporting returning university athletes, just to, kind of like a sum up.
Um, I would say that keeping the relationship, keeping in communication with the athlete is one of the key things. Being a sounding board for them as they transition into the university life at the NCCP level.
Mm-hmm.
When they are coming home, make them feel included, and depending on if you're developing the program or you're getting the program from the university coach. Um, as I mentioned before, make them have a network, because in the universities, it's a network of them that coaches together and that
Mm-hmm.
trains together. So give them their same comparable network, so that they would continue enjoying what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Nice. Yeah.
and then
Um,
take the opportunity to have them teach, and that way, what they have learned, they could share it, and that way it will help progress your team.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah. I think those are all great examples. I think what I would add, or say differently, one would be just to listen. I think a lot of times what happens as club coaches here in Canada, also as high school coaches here in Canada, et cetera, in that developmental capacity, what we do is sometimes we hear what the athlete is saying, and we overreact. Not saying that what the athlete is dealing with, or maybe they might not be in a great situation. I'm not saying that that's not something that happens at different points in time. But what I would say is I would say, first and foremost, listen and don't react. It could be the athlete is sensitive for a reason, and remember, it's the first time being away, possibly. Maybe it's some things that you can teach them that they can work through. Prior to just being all in arms and saying, no, no, pack up, come home. It could be a powerful tool of teaching them how to communicate to their coach, or developing grit and being able to have to work through some things. So I would say listen, no overreactions. I'd also say communicate. That'd be my second thing, is be open to communicating with the athlete, be open to communicating with the coach that's there as well. Ask questions to try to figure out what the athlete's schedule really is, as a great point that Ingrid made earlier. Understanding the athlete's schedule. When to, when not to, when are they expected home, when are they expected to be away, and then further to that, informing the coach of schedules here, domestic schedules that are important, junior nationals and senior national championships and trials, etc., and what's available. And the last thing I would say is just be willing to support. It could be providing contacts to get blood work done when they're home, in ways that you can. So Can you get your blood work when you're home? Oh, John, get your blood work done. John, get your blood work done. Okay. We find out that there's an iron deficiency, or you might be, low in vitamin D or whatever it is. That's something that we can support with at home. You're at home. It's been a hamstring sort of situation, as Ingrid mentioned. Let's see if we can put a hamstring protocol together for you while you're home that you can then take back and help to supplement when you are back at school. So find ways that you can be incredibly supportive without overstepping boundaries and or creating an uncomfortable situation for the athlete. And then ultimately, if you do have to step in and say something, go about it in the most respectful way as you can, knowing that, again, that person is a coach, you're a coach, and ultimately the athlete is the one who you're trying to have their best interest at heart. And in doing that support, it may mean that you have to reach out to someone else, to help facilitate that relationship for you. Carmen, Molly, Glenroy, Ingrid, whoever
Yeah,
would be
amazing.
my.
Thank you both. I think, if I can try to sum up what you've summed up here is really it comes down to communication, comes down to listening and as you both said a few different times, it depends, so each athlete's going to have their own situation, their own scenario and support them the best way you can. And again, the goal is always to, to help the athlete grow as a human, not only as an athlete. And as Kurt pointed out, and Ingrid too, like they are student athletes. They're down there for school, and that's going to probably, in most cases, be sort of the biggest thing they're going to get out of this is their degree. So I want to make sure that they get on that. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, both of you. I know you're both extremely busy people with all the things that you have going on. So we really appreciate you taking an hour to talk to us tonight. Everybody, thank you for coming and listening. You'll be able to check this out on YouTube very soon, probably tomorrow at the latest. So yeah, and we our next set of webinars will be coming up soon in a few months. We're not sure yet, but we've done these kind of little like three in a row blocks, so we're gonna probably try to do something like that again. So when you hear about the newsletters there. In the newsletter, you hear what's next. We have 3 minutes. I had a question, last minute question pop in here. So, is it okay if I throw this question at you? Just one more question here. I don't know if we can answer this or not. It's just the question is, how does it work in Canada with AC and club insurance? Meaning when an athlete comes home, are they part of university? Do they need to pay AO fees? Okay, that's that's kind of that's more of a Sahid question, maybe. But I mean, I think my answer to that would be if you're training with a club, you should register with the federation, and if even if you're going to the States, you should register with the federation. I think you should always be registered with your club. I think that's a straight answer from my end. I don't know if you have other thoughts on
Well,
that.
yeah, well, usually our athletes that are in the States, they are registered with the club and they're registered with um, the they're affiliated, so therefore their um, their career could be tracked. Because if you're not
Mm-hmm.
affiliated but you're still in the States, I
Hmm.
don't think it can be. It goes
Yeah,
up in athletics. It could be tracked on Athletics Canada.
exactly. Yeah, you need to have that. Yeah,
And
Kurt.
with our kids, we just set up a different fee.
Mm.
Yeah.
So let's say the regular U18 or U20 fee is $700, let's say. Our summer fee or our university fee for the athletes
Mm.
that go away, it would be like $150.
Mm.
And it would basically be the AO fee for their age group plus an admin
Mm.
fee or
Yeah,
something, that sort of thing. I think it's 120 for that age group. And I
yeah.
think we may charge them like $30 in addition to that.
Mhm.
So it's minimal, but then they can be tracked, and also it provides them the insurance when they're home with us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there you go. Yeah. So that's Lee Bibby's pole vault coach in kind of Western Ontario there, so or Eastern Ontario. So yeah, thanks for answering that. Yeah, I think and you definitely want to make sure that they're registered and tracked and everything. So thanks for taking the extra last question right into the wire there. That's great. So yeah, so appreciate that. Thank you everybody. Thanks for coming tonight, Kurt and Ingrid. Really appreciate you guys. Okay. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right. Thank you.